We all love them, we all read them, but have you ever considered writing your own book? In today's video, I'm going to be interviewing 3 kick-ass female authors who have all published travel-themed books on Amazon, and they're going to be giving you guys amazing tips on how to publish your own book. I'm going to be speaking to Jen, who is a lawyer turned travel blogger and travel writer, and has now published 4 books on Amazon, all of which have been Amazon bestsellers. I'm also going to be talking with Ali, a highly successful YouTuber with over 200,000 YouTube subscribers who actually published her own book last year. Where is she? Travel to Trauma. Lastly, I'm going to be talking to Anika from the Midnight Blue Elephant blog, who actually has a pretty unusual and super interesting story, as a publisher actually approached Anika and asked her to write a book on solo travel. So we're going to be covering how long it took these 3 writers to write their books, the editing process and whether they needed to hire an editor or whether they did it themselves, cover design, where they found a cover designer or whether they did it themselves, how expensive it is and where you can find cover designers, how long it takes to get published on Amazon, how much money does Amazon take, and if you can actually make any money from self-publishing. We're also going to touch on whether you need to write more than 1 book in the long run to be successful, and what it feels like to be a published author. So if you're interested in any of those topics, keep watching. Okay, so let's start with by talking about how long it takes to write a book. So we're going to be talking to Ali, Jen and Anika to see exactly how long it took to write their self-published books.
So my name's Ali. I'm a travel content creator. I run a YouTube channel called Psycho Traveler. And I wrote a book. I think the original reason I wanted to write it was just going to be a collection of travel stories. I never thought it'd be a published in paperback thing. I just started collecting stories. And then my life just changed. It like shattered, and things happened in my life that were so out of control that I started writing then as a sort of therapy. And when I started to heal myself from everything that had happened in Australia when I was traveling around, I decided that I was strong enough that I felt that I should publish it, that I should publish the stories because it could help so many people because of how alone I felt. So it was just really a book for the few that might need it. And I think it took around 2.5 years to finish.
My name is Jen Ruiz. I am a travel blogger and author at Jen on a Jet Plane, and I have published 4 books on my own through Amazon. Not my first idea for a book was more along the lines of like Eat, Pray, Love, right? I had just come back from 12 trips in 12 months challenge before my 30th birthday, and that was what I really wanted to write about. But I realized that if you're going to be in the business of writing, then you kind of have to write more towards what people want to know about versus what you want to write about. So when I was thinking about what it was that I wanted to write for my first book, and to test this theory to see if self-publishing could be valid, could be lucrative in any way, I looked towards the questions I was getting the most, which particularly over that year was how I afforded my trips. That was where people really chimed in, they left comments, they would message me with questions every time. So I knew that when I was going to write a book, I had to answer that particular question and all of the questions that I had been getting over the course of the year. I think it really just is a matter of sitting down and being like, I'm going to do this. And that's the hardest part, and what so many writing coaches recommend is just get into the habit of writing every day.
So my name is Anika. My blog is called The Midnight Blue Elephant, and I write about scuba diving and food mainly. 3 years ago, I was in my old home, Cape Town, and I got an email from a girl called Julia, who is an editor for a German publishing house called Rowohlt, which is quite a big publishing company in Germany. And she said she found my blog online and she loved my writing, and she had this idea for a blog about solo travel and wanted to see if I might be interested to write that book for her. So that was very exciting, obviously. The project went ahead. I had to write an expose for them. So I had to write about 10 pages and just give them an outline of what I thought was appropriate for a book. So it was meant to be a very practical but motivational and inspiring book at the same time about solo travel. So I wrote this expose, and then we started negotiating. So we got the contract in place and I got my timeline, and then I did what a lot of people do. I went to Bali and I wrote a book. I think it took about 2 months
Now, when it comes to the editing process, some people will hire an editor and some people will edit it themselves. One thing I have learned from these 3 published authors is that you should really write first and edit later.
Like, it was so emotionally exhausting to write that story that I couldn't read it. My editor was always like, Ali, have you checked the notes? Can you get me the next draft back? And I'm like, oh, don't make me read it again. I'm so sorry, Amanda. Please don't make me read it again. We got there in the end. My biggest piece of advice is don't edit as you're writing, because loads of people won't write a book because they say, I can't write a book. I'm not good with words. I could never do that. Well, that's why you hire an editor. Your grammar could be absolutely awful. Your structure could be terrible. That is why you pay for an editor, to sit down and read it with like fresh eyes. It stumped me so many times. I got so much writer's block because halfway through a sentence I'd stop and be like, should I change how I start this sentence? And I'd never get it written, ever. My editor found me, actually. It was one of my followers who was a professional editor. She reached out and said she'd do me a free sample. She'd edit the chapter of my book, which she does for everyone anyway, just see how I feel, no pressure. And yeah, we just got on like a house on fire. And
even if it's not perfect, don't go back and edit yourself. There's so many people that are tempted, like, I can't get past a paragraph because you keep rewriting the same sentence. Write it crappy and move on to the next sentence. And then when you're done, then you can come back and revise it, but at least you have bulk content to work with and feel like you were productive that day.
I must say my editor is really, really wonderful. I mean, the book writing itself really wasn't all that long, but then the whole process until it gets published, gets into the publishing catalog, that takes about a good year.
Okay, so when it comes to book design or cover design, you're going to want to design for the front and the back if you're also going to be publishing a paperback. So if you're just publishing an ebook, then you're only going to need a cover design for the front. But if you plan to actually get the book printed in paperback or hardback format, then you're going to need a design for both the front and the back. Now, you can do the design yourself if you're on a very tight budget, but the girls have said that the cover design of your book is one of the most important factors in whether your book is going to sell or not. If you don't have a good cover and people don't like the look of it, they're simply not going to buy your book.
If you have an amazing book cover, people will buy that book. If you have a horrible book cover and a great content, nobody will ever see what's beyond that cover. I started initially just going through Fiverr and I had terrible results. I found there were so many things that I disliked about that process. And then on top of that, I would get back products that were really low quality. So one looked like an encyclopedia, one had a woman who was scantily dressed. I was like, is this a book about being in a harem? I do not understand. My audience is women. Like, nobody wants to read like a streetwalker's guide to anything. And so it was really bad. For me, I decided to go to the experts. It's a little bit more of an investment, but you can start at $200 on a website called 99 Designs. So you give an outline of different covers you like, different color schemes, different things, ideas, how you want it to look. And then they put together different ideas for you. And you narrow down your finalists. You can discuss things with the designers directly and they'll make changes. $300, you can get your ebook and paperback design professionally from somebody who knows what they're doing, and you don't have to stress about it.
What was difficult for me, not so much the edits, but in my blog, layout is very important to me. So that was a bit tricky for me because the layout looks different than if I had it done my own way. But that was, again, one of those trust things where I was just like, okay, those are the experts. They have published X, Y, and Z books successfully. Let's go with it.
How difficult is it once you've written your book, had it edited, had a cover designed for the front or the back? What do you do now? Well, the girls say it's actually quite quick and quite easy to get your book up on Amazon. It's quite straightforward and it's quite fast.
So I just published through CreateSpace on Amazon. So it'd be available in Kindle and paperback, and they do prints on demand. So you get to have a physical copy at no cost to you, really. It was a bit confusing to start with because when you publish a paperback, it can take up to like 72 hours for it to populate on Amazon. So I uploaded it onto the site, pressed that very scary button about 3 days before it was set to launch. Now, I already had a launch party and everything that I was going to do in Birmingham, and it actually populated within 12 hours and went live. And I just couldn't believe it. I woke up and it was on Amazon. I was like, oh no. but everyone was chuffed. But I just kind of just set a normal price for it at the beginning, and I just kind of like closed my eyes then. I was like, okay, it's done, there you go, you can buy it now.
When it comes to promoting your book, all three girls said that the first 30 days are actually the most important, the first week or two up to 30 days, and you really do need to be promoting your book to your audience, to your social media followers, to your blog followers, to get a bit of momentum, get some traction and get some sales, and obviously get the reviews in. The reviews are very important for Amazon, and you really do want to get as much traction as possible in the first 30 days so that, fingers crossed, hopefully you can make it onto the Amazon bestseller list and you'll get more people viewing your book and hopefully purchasing it.
And because I've been mentioning it in vlogs and stuff and in videos, like giving people little updates or just me typing in vlogs, it was just a natural promotion. Even though it was never meant to be a promotion, it was like, this is what I'm doing this chapter of my book. So people were already, my audience were anticipating it for so long that they were chuffed when I finally got my bum into gear and got it published. But after that, it went onto the bestsellers list, and they actually used the cover to promote the travel writing section of Amazon.
Working with a publishing company, just the whole PR machinery that is at your disposal. And I got some really great gigs and interviews in the German market due to my PR company. Still getting requests now, like 3 years later, sometimes for interviews. My social media, my blog was not that big. Luckily for the publisher, it didn't make a difference, because I'm hearing more and more these days that a lot of publisher like writers with a big Instagram following or Twitter following. If you self-publish, do not underestimate the importance of PR. These Amazon ratings directly affect your sales. So if you're on Amazon, and I assume it's the same for all the other platforms, these ratings are super important.
I think there's definitely an increased interest when you launch, right? That's going to be, you're making all the pushes and all of that, but I'm very strategic about a scattered launch. So I do not want to push everybody. It came out on this day, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm everywhere that day. That's definitely not the case. It's been a week since my book has been out already, and I haven't emailed my main list about it yet. So I do stagger it out over those first 4 weeks. I think the first 30 days are really crucial. I have done zero marketing for my books since they have been published, and they are still #1 bestsellers in categories, because I worked so hard to make sure that those first 30 days showed staggered sales and continuous interest. So Amazon doesn't see this as a one-hit wonder. As long as you have staggered sales and reviews over the first month, then at least you show Amazon, hey, this is a book that our first trial period people are liking. Let's keep promoting it. Let's keep showing it at the top. Let's keep, just putting it out there. You don't need many sales. You can have 1 or 2 sales a day. As long as you have steady sales, that's what's going to keep you on the top of Amazon. You don't need 100 sales every single day.
But all of my sales, when you look at my graph, came within the first 3 weeks of launch. It starts dropping back down. You'll have little peaks. Normally I time the peaks with when I've mentioned on Instagram or something that a bunch of people go and buy it. But that is normally, if you do the marketing, when most people are waiting on buying that book.
Now, at the end of the day, whether there's real money to be made or not is a little bit debatable, but all three authors are super proud and happy with their work. They say it's going to be adding to your brand, it's going to give you leverage for speaking engagements and future career growth, and it is also a nice extra income stream.
It's not going to make you millions. It won't make you hundreds of thousands, probably won't even make you tens of thousands. Authors aren't very well known for being rolling in the dough. But it is nice to have it for the monetary side, a very passive income of a product that's very real and physical, and that took so much time, that can just sit there and people can enjoy it. You can, get the royalties every month.
It's definitely not, it's not monetary for the time you spent on it. It did give me a tiny foot into the door in terms of like the German magazine market. So I, did a few interviews and pieces for German magazines, because it's super hard as a freelancer to break into print market. I mean, it sounds really cheesy, but honestly, to say that I have a book published, that's quite exciting. Stop doing what everybody else is doing. I think just follow your guts and do and write what actually excites you.
I think a lot of people don't make money because they don't look at it as a business. And so you first have to be aware that 80% of six-figure authors have published 20 books or more. So if you publish, if you just keep publishing, if you, by virtue of persistence, manage to get yourself to 20 books or more, you're already on track. Doesn't really matter what the content is, to making a good chunk of money from those books, because they will sell and then they will sell each other. When somebody reads one of your books, they will want to go see what else you've published. So the more books you have out in the world, the more ways that people find you, drip into your content, and then buy your other products as well. It has been wonderful, particularly for me because I made the transition from law to blogging, which was a big drop in perceived status when you say that to somebody. So I have always, from the get-go, have been looking for ways to make myself seem more legitimate, more traditional in the eyes of society. So things like being an author, the fact that I can just add travel blogger and author, that and author suffix, it's the same exact content I have up on my blog. I packaged it with a book cover and now it's being sold on Amazon, but all of a sudden I'm an author.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video on publishing your own book on Amazon. It was so wonderful to talk to Ali, Jen and Anika and to get their invaluable tips on publishing and writing your own book. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to click like and subscribe below. Thanks for watching and let's grow our social media together.